Hello, everybody. Welcome to another Chaos Corner podcast live. My name's Steve.
Yes. My name's Donovan.
And yet again, we are back with another live session. This format seems to be going quite well. Don, what would you say?
Oh, I love it. Yeah. It's just a way. It's like a window to the world, isn't it? So you can actually speak to anyone, anywhere in the country or further.
It's pretty cool.
It's lockdown proof.
It is, yeah. And we've had some great guests as well so far.
Yeah.
And just on the guest front, I just want to let everybody know that the previous episode that we did with Burbs from Burbo Couture is now up on all of the other podcasting streaming platforms, so you can go get that in your ears. It was really interesting chat. Found out some cool things about Burbs I didn't even know. I thought I knew the guy, but I clearly didn't. There you go. So that was awesome. And tonight we have another guest with us, doing something that is an area I think we are both very into.
Yes. Check. You can check that off the list. Yeah.
Very much into. So I'm gonna attempt the name now as I introduce him. We have Cein. I got that bit. Mcgillicuddy.
Cein Mcgillicuddy.
Is that right? Like, I feel like we need a round of applause or something. Let's go. Hey.
You feel like you need a round of applause. Cein Mcgillicuddy. Well, can I do a bit of an intro before we go delve into it?
You go for it.
Cein.
Oh, go on.
Cein and myself go back a long way. So obviously, I've seen sometimes from afar the progression of you becoming like a fan of film and a fan of TV, and then eventually developing into a successful comedy writer and director. And it's just been really, really impressive to see. And I love your work. So I'm really thrilled that you've come on. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Is this where you're going to take credit now?
Yeah, take credit for forming your taste and your... Yeah. I taught you everything I know, but that's okay, you know.
To be honest, there are some things. I do have to give you credit for some things. You introduced me to Daft Punk. What led from that was like old school funk and stuff as well, Motown and stuff, which I wasn't really aware of when I was a teenager. And that really, like, when you introduced me to that was like, shit, this is
like a light bulb moment.
Yeah, this was like, and when you're a teenager and you try and plug yourself into things. Yeah, it's like, oh, this is my thing, but it just isn't. It's it's not natural until finally you get it, and that was it for me.
We touched on this last week. When you're young, you try to people please quite a lot because you're trying to find your niche and your group of people that are your family that you fit into. Yeah. As you get older and you get more confident and comfortable in your own skin, you care about that less and less as the years tick by. So if you like something and someone says that's not popular, or it is popular, because if you're going to be a hipster, it can't be popular. If it is popular or if it's pop, it doesn't matter. It matters less and less as you get older.
You're just not bothered. But that informed a lot of my taste, and which I'm sure we'll talk about, like one of my big projects, Top Coppers, was a real sort of funk type sound.
Throwback, wasn't it?
Like that, the whole thing is scored, is layered with like loads of original funk scoring, and that really came from that love of that. Like, I wanted to do something with that in. So you could probably claim that.
I am trying to claim nothing.
There you go.
Right, okay. Well, let's kick off with what we always kick off when we have a guest on, which is intros. So when we did our first ever podcast, just Steve and myself, we thought it was an intro podcast, an intro to Chaos Corner. So we decided that we were going to try to lock off and nail down our top, was it 3?
Well, it was our top 3, but that was too hard.
Yeah, we tried to lock in our top 3 movie and song intros. I must apologise. I usually make guests aware of this beforehand. I thought it'd be more interesting to just throw it onto you. Okay. No, but it doesn't have to be a top 3. Just what pops into your head when you think about great, inspiring intros for film and songs generally.
Inspiring intros. Okay. I mean, well, my biggest iconic film for me of all time, my favourite film still is Jurassic Park. Mm-hmm. And that was even my favourite film when it wasn't cool to like something as obviously popular.
Big,
It's just always has been. And so the intro, I always remember the intro to that. So that was the Velociraptor cage. Remember when it all goes wrong, the guy gets pulled in, and obviously as a kid you see that, you know, I was like 11 or 12 years old. It's like, oh my god,
there's a lot going on. It's fear, it's excitement.
It's everything all in one. So that's a big one. It's the intros. Oh god, you have dropped it on me.
It's a tough one. It is a tough one. But you know, like when you get to a disco and the intro comes on, not necessarily just the disco, but you hear a song, it starts, and within the first 3 seconds, you're like, I'm up. This is my job.
Yeah, well, not just because you said disco, but Disco Inferno.
I was going to say.
It's one of those tracks, because that intro is unbelievable. In the same vein, then, I'd also say Grease is the Word. So the proper theme.
I love that song. I love that song.
Harry did that one?
No, it was actually by quite unknown. You mean the theme music to the?
The main theme tune.
Yeah. I think he's not that well known, but that is my favourite song in the movie, and it's not one of the actual.
No, it's by far the best song. It's such a good song.
Yeah, it's a great song. That is a good one. That
does it. That does it. And what else? What else? Just I have to go. Probably September by Earth, Wind and Fire.
I think he's not that well. He's not that well known.
Hang on a minute. What's going on here?
My favourite song.
Sorry.
Like, I was having a memory.
No, it's all right. The computer came on with sound then in the background. Sorry about that.
Steve, you got boxing gloves on?
I'll turn that off. I don't know what happened.
I didn't know if that was my interior monologue that I was just hearing out loud.
Okay, you've done well there. You've done well there, Keith. You've done really well there.
Not bad for being on the spot.
Yeah, on the hop. Yeah, very, very good. Okay, so
let's get into the meat and potatoes.
Yeah, let's get to it. Now, what I really want to know about is obviously, firstly, influences. I've obviously gone through your bio, and there's some really interesting things in there of like you having a knowledge. And I was thinking about trying to test it and just throw a few out there. And your knowledge of years that films were shot, I believe.
Years that films came out. So basically, I spent such a long time as a kid in the video shop. Obviously grew up in Stourbridge. It was a tiny little video shop, GCL Video. I think it's like now a laundrette or something. But it was like where I spent like so much of my childhood, and literally I could be in there for hours just reading the backs of the cases.
I bet they loved you.
Oh yeah, I mean the guy got to know me. It was weird. It was like, you know, he was like my weird uncle or something. He just was happy to let me just browse for all that time. But I was just reading the backs, seeing what the roles were like, and who did what, and linking them, saying, oh, that's the same names I saw in that one, and work out what's director photography, what does that mean? Because it's sort of pre-internet as well, so you can't just Google something and find out. You have to ask someone or find a book or something. So it's like you're trying to work out stuff all the time. And I've only found in recent years, my writing partner Andy Kinnear, he spotted it. I don't know how it came up, but something about mentioning what year certain films came out. He discovered that my only sort of party trick, if you could even call it that, is that most of the popular films in 80s and 90s, I just know what year they came out, and I don't know why. It's like metadata in my head that I've just taken in from reading all of these videos all the time. Really well, or sometimes I just have a bad run and people go, well, that was complete bollocks. What do you make that up for? So, we go either way.
I've never been so impressed by such a mundane talent.
But no, weirdly, the first time I met my girlfriend, it came up then, and I thought, oh god, well that's done it, isn't it? And then when we had a date, our first date, she came with a list of like 20 films with the year. I thought, this is the one for me.
I like that. What did you say, mate? Sorry, okay. No, I like that. I like that. You know if they're gonna, I was actually expecting you there, Donovan, to do what you did to me the once and spring some surprise pop quiz on him.
Oh, we're not finished yet.
Oh, right. Oh, okay.
We're only just begun.
He did that to me once, and I was like,
"What do you think? I keep looking down at my phone."
Well,
films.
I tell you what, why was that interest there in the first place? Why were you reading the backs of these things? Why did you want to know what a director of photography or cinematography was, or why was that even a thought at that stage?
I'm trying to think of like where the sort of obsession came from. I don't know. I think like when I was really young, apparently my favourite film was Mary Poppins, which is I still would say is in my top 5 films of all time now. I think it's like amazing, and I used to be obsessed with watching that. And like I've got siblings in Ireland, half siblings, and one of my sister from over there was over visiting once, and she came downstairs, found me. I think I was about 7 years old, completely butt naked, dead of winter on the sofa, eating ice pops. Like cola. Yeah, Mr. Freeze.
Mr. Freeze. That's it.
Yeah, eating them about 7 a.m, completely naked, watching Mary Poppins on loop. And apparently, I was just sitting there shivering, like just really enjoying the ice pop, watching Mary Poppins. Which I don't tend to do so much anymore.
Not since like 2011, 12, maybe something like that.
Yeah. And so I think I was always obsessed with watching films. Just love films, and I don't know why, because no one in my family works
film buffs,
or in the film industry, so it wasn't an influence in that way. Just that was the thing that got my attention, and I always loved it as like a hobby, and I'd make little shorts and stuff as a kid, and wrote my brothers into it. My younger brother Ty used to like acting a lot, so he was always willing to be the star. And so we once went on holiday and got one of those lilos, like inflatable lilo, but it was an alligator shaped one, classic alligator lilo. That came home with us, so brilliant. That became the star of Gator, and then Gator 2, he's back. Two sort of like ridiculous B movies. But I remember even working out the shots, like what would be a dramatic shot, and I don't know whether it's just because I was copying something I'd seen in a film, but we put the camera on its head, and so you just had the nose of the alligator coming at the bottom of the frame, and then that would be his POV shot going around. And so we'd go into a room, and my brother would be there and go, "Oh no, don't do this!" Really panicking. Great. I mean, they were awful, but it was great fun.
Yeah.
Why is this reminding me of you, Steve?
It's like we were just discussing off our live when we was talking about the stupid little short that me and my brother made earlier in the year. Got one of my drunk mates to literally. I mean, he just finished drinking a full bottle of gin. And then he just handed him this camera. I don't know what I was thinking, because if he dropped it, I mean, it was that's my livelihood gone. And then handed him this camera, stuck everything on auto mode just so that he could work it, and then just press record, and then just this stupid thing. But we just love first of all, we don't care what people think, so that helps. I think that has to help when you're doing any kind of artistic craft. We talked about that loads on the podcast with different people. But one of the biggest things I think is we've comedy writing though, because we didn't really write much. We had a very loose script. It turned out to be okay and funny-ish, to us, but it was way funnier making it. We struggled hell, even getting scenes done. 'Cause we were rolling on the floor. Do you ever find that a frustration when you're making something? Because you see when you watch the outtakes of Derek, have you ever watched any of those?
Yeah.
I don't find Derek that funny. I find it funny. I love Ricky Gervais. I don't find that his best work, but the outtakes from Derek are the funniest things I've ever watched in my life. And
his outtakes are amazing.
But do you wish sometimes? That's why we decided when we were doing ours that we would leave mistakes in where possible, or laughing or grinning or things like that. Do you find that it's sometimes you want to use that. Do you know what I'm getting at? Like, it's
it depends on what making. I mean, on Ricky Gervais, like his outtakes are always the best because he's got the most infectious laugh.
Yeah.
Yes.
I am a big fan of him. In fact, my girlfriend's a huge fan of him, and it's sort of given me a reawakening in my fandom of him in a way because she enjoys him so much, and she will just watch YouTube clips of his outtakes, for hours. She just loves them.
I love the fact that he just laughs at himself.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I know that people sort of kind of turned on him for a period when he got very successful, and he just played into that joke of I'm too successful to take part in these awards and stuff like that. And people got really sort of bitter, but I think maybe at the time I thought that, but I realised now it's like that was all just part of the joke, and he's ultimately British still. I like that he's unapologetic. He just is funny, and he's okay with himself. He's comfortable with himself, and he does what he knows he likes, and you've got to respect that, really. But no, to answer your question, it depends what you're making, and the dynamic of what you're making. So it's really important. Even a really sort of professional broadcast comedy, which has got lots of money invested in it and are very expensive, you overrun, your day. So you've got to finish on time. You've got to, have good time management. It's still got to be fun on set because I think that will always come across on camera, even though it's scripted and people are saying things that have already been planned, or and you get to cut together the best takes. And you don't see anything behind the scenes, I still think it can influence the atmosphere of what you're making. Yeah. And there's something that inherent then in your footage that you can't get rid of if it's a bad atmosphere on set. So it's still got to be a good, fun atmosphere.
Yeah.
But yes, when there's lots of money involved, it's striking a balance of how you keep the atmosphere, but you keep moving quickly.
Yes.
So so you've got to have a good first AD. So that the first AD is first assistant director who isn't really like an assistant to the director. It's a misleading term. They assist the director in that they do all of the rubbish stuff. So
legwork.
They do all of the keeping the set moving, keeping on time, so the director doesn't have to worry about that. So they're the ones who will come to you and say in your ear,
"Get on with it.
You're half an hour behind.
Yeah.
So do you want to stick on this, or do you think there's something you can sacrifice later?" And they give you the options, the choices, so you can see in your head and you still make the decision. But they're the ones running that. And then they have second AD who generally looks after cast off set, and then third AD who's like their assistant on set. And so they run all of that. They're your directing team to take care of all those other jobs. So you have to have a good person doing that because they're the ones that kind of set a lot of the atmosphere. Like if their voice is barky, because they're the ones that are really shouting. You rarely hear the director ever raise their voice. I don't mean raise their voice in an annoyed way. I mean raise their voice even to speak to people like loudly. So because generally the first does all of that, and you just chat to the actors, chat to your heads of department, and so generally, sort of quieter, or at least I find on set for me that's what it's like. And so you kind of just have to have the right team because comedy in particular.
Yeah. I didn't have any of that.
But what you have been was enthusiasm.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Wait, can I just say, sorry, if I keep looking away, grinning, it's because we've got some of the strangest comments ever going on in the comment section on here.
Go on.
Well, first of all, the first comment was, Donovan, that apparently, because we're at the top here, I think they were suggesting that we should turn towards each other and kiss. Somehow, I don't know how we do that. And then after that, then the comments just start getting a little bit out of order.
Well, they say I should kind of go like that and just sort of reach up.
And then pull us closer.
That's it.
There you go. Right.
No, I'm not checked yet. I'm not going to check for that.
Somebody just put Fargo and Pulp Fiction came out in the same year. True or false?
Fargo and Pulp Fiction, that is false.
It is false, yeah.
Pulp Fiction is 1994. Mm-hmm. Fargo
96.
96 is what I have in my head. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, there you go. Let us know if that's correct. We ain't got time to check right now.
What I wanted to ask you in regards to some of the other work you've done, because I know you've worked with the BBC and obviously Channel 4. So when I look at obviously the work that you've done previously for your big ones like your BBCs and your Channel 4s, it sticks out a little bit from obviously the work that you've created, the whole Made in Chelsea, because I know that you've directed a couple of episodes of that.
Yes.
How did that come about, and how did you find the experience of that? Because I know that I don't know if you're a fan of the show, but
it can't be directed. It's all real life documentary.
That's another thing I was going to say.
Don't let like Mrs. hear that this is all like fixed with.
I'll tell you something truthfully about Made Chelsea is that it's more real than people realise.
Really?
And one of the most sort of frustrating things almost about it is that it gets really like, oh well, but it's all fake, isn't it? But it isn't. that's
really.
That's what's bizarre.
That's a revelation. That's terrifying.
That's even more scary than.
Well, but this is why I actually think it's one of the most impressive shows that has been made because of how difficult it is. Like the teams that made Chelsea are phenomenal, really. Like in terms of telly, they're the elite. In terms of because what you've got is all of the challenges of drama because they use full TV crews. Really experienced, expensive people that would shoot dramas and scripted comedies, and so they're lighting it, and shooting it in a way that looks beautiful, and that's why it looks so good. But of course, when you get people like that, you've got to do it all within a certain amount of time because again, you overrun and you have all like huge costs. But you're filming real people who aren't actors, so they're not like, oh, I better be on time because because it's a paid job, or I just got to learn my lines, so they learn the lines in advance. These are people and it is their life, so they're real relationships, real friendships they're having, and they're choosing for that to be on camera. So they get involved in the show. They know the idea is your life is going to be on camera, and they're doing that because that's what they want. They want that experience.
It's like the ultimate form of vlogging.
Yeah, in a way, it's really beautiful vlogs.
Yes, they are very well edited.
Why, thank you.
Yeah,
I agree with them myself.
To give you like an example, so like obviously, you might be a scene where two people are chatting. Let's say a date. There's a girl and a guy on a date, and then one of their exes walks in, and it's like awkward central. Suddenly three of them into love time or whatever. So that's a classic example. And you could watch it and go, oh, well, that's stupid. Like they just turned up, have they? It's like, obviously the producers have set the scene and they know they planned that this person is to turn up. But then everything that transpires
from there
is their real emotion and the real situation, the real dynamic. That is their ex. They have beef with each other. This is awkward because this is the new person on a date with. So it's not fake in the people and the visceral atmosphere and what they say. That's all real. But they've just made sure that situation happens on camera because it makes good television. So that's really what it comes down to. So I think it's
more like a manipulated reality, in a sense.
Yeah. Because that could happen in real life.
Yes,
but most of the time it'll just be by coincidence. There won't be cameras there, so they just make sure that happens on camera because that'll be juicy and an interesting story.
Yeah. So were you?
But just to explain my involvement with it, it's so I have directed on the main show. I did like a stint of 4 episodes in 2012. The series that won the BAFTA. What?
What?
Don't mention that. That's cacky. The main thing I do for Main Chelsea, which when I got involved, it was really early on. It was right at the start, 2011, and they wanted someone to make little online sort of shorts of the cast kind of like profile type videos, introduce the cast to people. And they were worried, of course, that no one really liked them. And like, well, we don't know if people are going to like the guys on the show because they're all really popular. They're going to just think they're snobby and not be interested. So we want to show their personalities, online. So I had to think of funny little ideas, really super low budget to make with them. And they're kind of, not necessarily scripted things at that stage. It was like
scenarios,
little sort of like documentary type things like I did. So Ollie Locke, who's a big character in the show, and he was in it from the start. At the very beginning, I did Ollie's makeup tips for men, and it was him doing a guide in a mirror about how men can wear makeup and how to apply it and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So it was that kind of thing early on, and because that was when I was in the very sort of early stages of my directing career. I was still kind of a one-man band. I had learned to shoot, edit, produce, direct, and so I sort of did everything. They just left me to it, And they're just good people. It's a good company, Monkey Kingdom's company that make it. They're just really good, sound, decent people there, and they stick with people they like, and they progress you. And then they gave me a shot at the main show because I basically went and made. I was able to. I could say my budget. Like I had a budget to make so many shorts for them for this one season, and I just sort of I trimmed a bit off the budget for each one, until I had a bigger budget at the end and said, well, I want to try and make something a bit more ambitious. And I did a really ridiculous sort of High School Musical-like musical number where three of the guys start what looks like a scene from the show, and I shot it like it was a scene from the show. So anyone watching it would just think they're watching an outtake, a clip,
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, just mid-scene, they're like, and just go into a musical song. And it ends up like a huge pool party with a big, synchronized dance routine. And it was really over the top, and they were like awful singers. It was not very well auto-tuned whatsoever. But it was fun and over the top, and they loved it. And I think because that showed some promise.
That gave you a platform then, yeah.
Yeah, and they were like, okay, do you want to have a shot at the main show? Because they had a window where the director needed covering. And so I did that, and I got that was the best experience because it just taught me all of the challenges.
It sounds like a much kind of richer opportunity than I ever realised.
It made me a better scripted director because by the time I'd done that, when I was doing that, we were developing Top Coppers, which ended up being my first full comedy series for telly. And by the time I came to make that. The experience from doing a lot of broadcast telly in main Chelsea and some opportunities I got as a result of that, I was like, when I got to a scripted set, I was like trying to do everything that I didn't need to do because you have a huge team to do. But I got used to having to do all that by myself. So I was trying to be the first AD, and the first AD is going, "Don't worry, mate, I've got this. You just worry about talking to the actors." I'm like, "What? I just." Oh, okay. Well, that's all I have to do.
Well, I guess we've spoken about this before in regards to giving up control on a project.
It's hard.
Was that hard for you, or
giving up control for in which?
Because you said you were used to kind of juggling all those balls and doing everything yourself, checking everything. Was it difficult to let go of certain aspects?
Yeah, it was. It was at first, but not in a sort of to let go creatively, because actually the job, what they were trying to tell me to do was, don't worry about all of that. That's the boring stuff that we're taking care of. You just do the creative bit. So actually, it was really what they were trying to say to me is, you've got a much easier job now. Well, don't make it harder for yourself. Yeah. And I was like, oh yeah, I am. Why am I worrying about whether so and so has arrived on time? I just need to think about this person's delivery and whether that's right for the scene. So the stuff which is more fun and more interesting. But I got so used to having to think of logistics as well.
Yeah.
That, but that was good training, because I think the more that as a director how somebody else's job works, the better a director it makes you.
The stronger you be. You become more well-rounded, don't you?
Yeah, because you can empathise with what they need to do. And I think if you have no concept of that department and what they do, then you could probably become frustrated and go, oh, why is that taking so long? And then, of course, to them, if you voice that to them and show that kind of attitude, they'll be like, oh, well, get lost, quite frankly. Or But if you have some understanding of that job, and you can empathise, then that's obviously just going to get you a lot more respect because you respect what they're doing. So it's good having had to do everything in a way, because that made me better as a director, especially learning like shooting and editing myself. So doing so many jobs where I had to shoot at them and edit myself. It's just for like little things online mostly, but that meant as a director, I know what I need to get on camera and for what I'll need to edit, because I've learned all those lessons. I've learned all the things that can go wrong in an edit where you go, oh, I didn't cover that scene properly. We needed a shot like this because those two shots don't cut together without that shot. And you know that for next time. So it's a good way to learn.
One of the things I think I've learned probably the hard way with filming, especially like music videos, is I didn't realise just how much pre-work you have to get right to get the colour grading part right. Colour grading is like a science. Like it's one that it's like mastering in music. I have like studio music. That's my main thing. But it's like you've done this track, for example. It's great. It's sounding good in the mix. You've got your speakers up great, and then you've got to put the final polish on it, and then somehow you manage to ruin it. And you're like, where have I gone wrong here? And 9 times out of 10, I was thinking it's something I've done wrong in the mastering process that's messed it up. And where eventually I started working with another producer who's really, really, really experienced. We're hoping we'll get him on the show. And I spent probably 2 days in the studio with him. And the first thing I noticed, he was doing just one thing completely differently to me. It was just the one thing. And then I immediately took that home. And I was on the computer straight away. And I did what he did to a degree. And then it instantly made my masters better. Instantly. But it was because, like you were just saying, making sure you get the shot, the lighting, everything right in the camera. What I was doing, because of the technology that is now available, was I was recording stuff going, that's all right. Thinking, well, digitally now, I can just fix that in post.
Fix it in the edit.
Yeah, and now I don't do that anymore. It has to be almost bang on perfect before it gets to that next stage now. And I think that you're right. That is something that I definitely learnt the hard way over the last 10 years in music. There is a big similarity, I think, in that part of it. But again, I would find it really hard to let go of, like, some engineers, they'll produce a track and then send it off to be mixed and mastered by someone else. I'd find that weird.
Yeah, well, I mean, I would as well, but thankfully that's why I made sure I got into this job, because it means you're welcome into every process.
because you have overall control.
And you kind of have to do what's right for your personality. So, for example, there was a project just recently where this project we're doing with Sky. I've got an animation project that we're so Sky have commissioned a script at this stage, and then if they like the script, we'll go on to make an animatic, which is a very rough animated version where usually there'll be 1 or 2 pictures a second, and just hand drawn, sort of pencil sketches, just to give us a sense of the timing. You still record voices and everything, performances, and then if that's good, if they're happy with that, then the idea is you get it fully animated. So it's very much a pilot stage. But at first, Sky, naturally, because the commissioners who commissioned that didn't know us directly, hadn't met us or anything, me and Andy, and they commissioned us to write, but said they'd obviously look for an editor and a director to make it, and we were like, oh, well, we'll do that. That's what we do, because my writing partner Andy is an editor by trade as well. Right. So as in he writes and I write with him, we write together, and then he edits and I direct. So a similar dynamic to the Coen brothers, but to a much less successful standard.
So far.
Yes, very different style, but the same working relationship.
Yeah,
which works really well. But then, but Sky said, we feel we should get an animation editor and director to do that. And I sort of made the argument, well, that the main skill set that you want in those roles is like 80% there from live action, and all you have to do is really adapt to the method, because the method is very different, admittedly. And obviously, not to dismiss any animation editors, directors as it being, no different. I'm sure, they, agree it is very different. But I know the main skill set, especially if it's something you've written yourself, and you're experienced in those jobs already. Like, I just was confident enough to go, no, I know that we're the right people for that.
For this,
and mainly because as well, I know what I'd be like if I wasn't in that role. If I had written something, and I am a confident director, which I am, I had to just stand at the side of the room while somebody else made all the direct decisions. I was just sort of like, it won't be a good idea, because like I know I'm the best person for it anyway, and it won't be a good working dynamic because I know my own personality, and you've kind of got to go by your own personality. Yeah, and so I was saving them from me. It's like, How
did it land? How did Sky take that?
It went really well, because obviously, we fully respected why they were saying that, and we said we understand. They don't know us. We can't take it personally. They don't know us, and they're doing what is understandable. That is logical. Well, we're making animation, so you get an animation specialist. But I made the case to them why we would be right for it, and it was our own project, and that we have been developing animations for a long time as well. This is like our third or fourth that we've developed, and it's been a long time ambition. I've animated things myself as well. I've made stop frame animations, so I understand the process. And then I sent an email, basically put together an email, and they came back and said, well, let's have a meeting, and had a meeting. And then he said to the producers afterwards, said, yeah, I'm happy they've shown confidence, and clearly it's the right thing, So they changed their minds, and so if we do go to that stage now, then we'll edit and direct respectively, which was good. That was a good feeling. That was a good turnaround.
Oh that brings me on to what I was going to ask a question, and then I thought I'm going to move on to another question instead of this question, because from hearing you talk at the moment, I think people may get the wrong impression that everything you've done has just been very smooth sailing. Everyone you've worked with has been nice and very agreeable. And I'm sure that is probably not the case. Maybe if you throw me out a couple of situations that you've been that have been very challenging, maybe working with challenging talent or people within the organisations that you're working with.
Name and shame.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Let's get all out. Never plain sailing. It's never plain sailing. But then it wouldn't be fun, because there's something satisfying when it's a challenge and you overcome the challenge. If you just get handed it to you, then it's like, well, then that's boring. If you're playing a computer game, whatever, you don't want to just sail through every level and then complete it. Like, well, that was rubbish. Like, you want to be throwing the pad through the screen, and then eventually do it. You go, oh yes, and it's so satisfying. You get it, and it's the same. I find it's the same in your career. Like, there's so many disappointments all the time. We've had so many no's to things, and to projects that we really believe in, and
we're good. And,
and we're just like, we know that's going to be so good. And we can see it working. We can see it being popular. And then someone doesn't agree, and you hear their reasoning, and you go, oh, I just don't understand what those words mean. Go on.
I was about to say, tell that to the likes of people like J.K. Rowling. Imagine how bad the companies must feel that turned her down. 12 of them before she got the 13th one.
Yeah, and the Beatles is the other famous one. I think got turned down numerous times.
So many times.
Clint Eastwood got told he'd never be an actor because he's got too much of a squint. And it's like literally what he built his career on it.
He's got more of a squint than acting skills, to be fair. I do love him.
I do love him. He's a great director. I heard a brilliant story about him as a director once from a crew member here in the UK who said one of the crew asked him a question when he was directing in the UK, And there's a dynamic, particularly on film sets, where the only people that should talk to the director are the heads of department. Sure. And this person was not the head of department. He had
a civilian
boss
like
who should put the question to Clint Eastwood if he needs to, but he asked the question directly to
the ear.
Yeah, and apparently Clint Eastwood just turned and went, "I want you to do your fucking job," which I love.
That's it. No answer to the question.
And he's like, no, that's all. Yeah, that's pretty good. Good, yeah, I'll do that.
Love it.
A bit like Tom Cruise's rant the other day. Did you see that? That was pretty. That was pretty.
I think that was valid personally, but there you go.
Yeah.
I think
we went on a bit long, to be fair.
It was good.
The message, as in the meaning behind it, is valid. Like,
yes, yeah.
I don't think he delivered it
very well.
Particularly well, and I do think the people there could claim something against them there, like
I get the
anger. He's hurt their feelings or something like that. Don't get me on this one.
I do get the anger.
As in, it's not cool. Like bullying, it sort of could be seen as bullying in the workplace because he was picking people out in front of everybody and saying, "If you do that again, you're gone," sort of thing. And it's just employment law generally is not on basically anymore.
Yeah.
But his message was correct. His message was right, and people shouldn't be getting close at the moment.
But I think I didn't have any problem with him being angry. For me personally, the only issue I had, and I started to kind of cringe a little bit, it was just a bit overlong. And he'd made his point, and there'd be massive pauses, and he'd say the same thing again, and I'm like, okay,
yeah, need a bit of an edit.
We get it. You're acting now. Relax.
Yeah. He can get
Maybe someone was recording it, and he thought, "Oh, this is good. This is gold.
Yeah.
I'm going to keep this going. I'm in a zone with this one.
Good PR.
Okay. I wanted to ask you in regards to your bio. You mentioned the year 2000 being a quite pivotal year for you.
Yes.
Getting a break. And you mentioned it was a meeting or a moment that involved someone. It intrigued me that is known to both Steve and myself.
Someone that was known to both. So when I left school in '99, I did a year at Stourbridge College doing information technology. So just because I was like, I'm quite good at computers, I'll try that. Not really sure what at the time what I wanted to do with my life.
Yeah.
And I remember doing a project there, and I'd been quite creative with how I'd put the project together, the printer thing. And I remember the tutor coming and slapping it down on the desk in front of me. He went, "You do it wrong, you do it again." And then I was walking off, and me being who I am, immediately addressed this with him in the room. I said, "Excuse me." I said, "What do you mean? If I do it wrong, do it again. What's wrong about it?" And he was like, "Well, what's all this?" And basically pointed out all the sort of creative side, if you like, that I'd done to it. He said, "It's supposed to look like all the rest." And I was like, "What? So what I do needs to look exactly like everybody else's?" And he's like, "Yes." And it was like light bulb, like, okay, this is not
okay. Goodbye.
Yeah. Like, I realized I need to do something creative.
Yeah.
That's just my personality type. So that's, so no point denying that. And then still not sure what I wanted to do. I wrote a script to make in the summer, like just with mates, Faces. You remember it?
Just popped into my head.
Oh my God, you remembered. Yeah. Faces.
I remember that name because I thought it was a really cool name.
Yeah, Faces. And I sort of loosely remember the concept, and it was about missing persons, the idea that people could be plucked from society and they just become a missing persons case, and they could turn up somewhere else where nobody knows who they are, and they are somebody else, like they've been brainwashed or something. But it was so it was a bit of a thriller type, noirish type thriller thing, which supposedly was going to film with a load of teenagers in the woods. I don't know how that would end up.
That would go down now.
Yeah, it was. Thankfully, I was a teenager too, so it's all good. I never actually ended up shooting it. Never made it. But I remember writing that script, to do it, and I gave that script to you, Don.
You did.
Okay, and you showed it to a tutor of yours. I think that because you were studying acting in Wolves at the time, in Wolverhampton. Yeah. And I remember you showing it to a tutor, and and you just relaying the message that they thought it was quite good. And that was the first time that anyone, because I didn't know, again, anyone in the industry or anything like that, but someone who, specialised in that because...
A place of authority.
Who would have some knowledge. It's not your mom or dad basically saying it's good.
Yeah.
It's somebody else who didn't even know me. So there was no, obligation. They never, and I've still never met them. And they relayed to you as good, and that changed something in my mind. So it was you, because you went and did that. So the person who's known to you both is you.
Yeah.
So I thought my throwing off the fence a little.
That's a weird twist. I remember Faces. I kind of vaguely remember giving it to a man called I think it was Dave Allen. I think it might have been Dave Allen. He's a playwright. He's actually on the corner, I believe.
Is it?
But
shout out to Dave Allen.
I think it was. It was a long time ago.
Yeah, he's getting the shout out anyway.
Give him someone else's credit.
20 years. Is he?
Dave Allen. There's a Dave Allen on the corner. They going, I don't remember this.
Yeah. Well, he's okay.
But no, big thanks to you and him, because that's what changed my mindset of something which I had always done as for fun.
Insular. Yeah, personal.
Yeah, but always, because I'm a boy from a town in the West Midlands with no family in telly or film. Why would I ever think that was a realistic job prospect?
We've had this conversation.
Yeah, we've had this conversation so
where
many
you're from. You have to kind of rise out of that and just keep pushing.
Yeah, you do, and that's what it took. It's it just took one person saying, "Actually, I think it's quite good," and then I was like, "Oh, that's the thing." I was like, "I love it. It's creative."
Yeah,
I've always wanted to do it, and I've had parents that basically always told me I could do whatever. I can do whatever I put my mind to. Parents that so believe in you so much that I pretty much was convinced when I was 4 that I was Spider-Man. And I climbed up on the garage roof in my Spider-Man outfit, and I walked across the perspex roof between the garage and the house, fell through and broke my leg in a spiral break. And I was
that's when you realised you weren't Spider-Man?
Yeah, and I realised I wasn't Spider-Man. But I bet it was because of my parents' unwielding belief that I thought I was, so I blame them. I just thought I've got to go for it.
Yeah. I think my dad's theory growing up was you can do anything you like, as long as you pay your way or move out, and then you can do everything you like at your own abode. You can do whatever you like as long as it pays. If it doesn't pay, do it outside of my home.
Yeah. I mean, there's a logic to it.
He's not stopping me from doing what I like.
No, exactly. Yeah.
I'm going to throw off topic just a little bit, because this is a serious thing I want to talk about now. This is real serious to me, because it bugs the life out of me, right? So, my favourite comedy series of all time is Red Dwarf, right? It's genius. I love it. I've watched it 1,000 times. I probably know every episode word for word. If they ever needed to remake it, I'm your man. I know every word. But here's my problem.
Sorry, you were talking about Red Dwarf. I just wanted to close the deal.
They did about 6 or 7 series with canned laughter, and then randomly did one without, and then went back to canned laughter again. I hate that. And I don't know whether... I used to hate canned laughter. I used to think, when I used to watch Friends and there'd be a joke and I'm not laughing, but the crowd are going hysterical.
I'm sure Friends was live though, wasn't it?
Friends was live. That wasn't canned. But
laugh
the track.
Yeah, but you know what I mean. So you hear a joke, like The Big Bang Theory or something like that. That there's just he'll say a word and someone will go, and what? And then there'll be this hysterical laughter, and he's like, it's not funny. How is that funny? But obviously, I suppose the theory is that laughter is contagious. So by having the canned laughter, that makes people laugh, and therefore think it's funnier than what it is. Because it's the same if you're at a comedy show, you tend to laugh more if people around you are laughing more.
I don't know though, Steve. It's pretty subjective, isn't it?
But
that program, it's been pretty popular. I don't enjoy it myself, but a lot of people do.
But the problem I have with it is not the it's the canned laughter thing. And then they went to non-canned. I used to think that canned laughter was bad. I was like, why do they do that? If it's funny, just do it. But then as soon as they switched to non-canned laughter, I automatically found it less funny.
So it obviously has its purpose.
Yeah. Well, is that a thing? What's the science behind it? Explain.
I've got a theory for that in particular.
Go on.
So, the origins of canned laughter really came from. It was a slightly patronising thing to the audience, letting them know when they're supposed to laugh.
Yeah, like the big lights come up, applause.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, laugh now. And it's like we should know when to laugh because we suddenly laugh, because it's instinctive.
It should be involuntary.
Yeah, but it was also because the way that telly was watched has evolved a lot. So back in the early days of telly, so a good example is Police Squad. Which obviously watched now retrospectively is brilliant and incredibly funny. But that's because when we watch it, we know we need to really focus on it because there's so many jokes in Police Squad that you need to focus to spot them. And they want a laugh track. And the broadcaster was like, oh, you've got to have a laugh track. Everything has a laugh track. They're like, but would you put a laughter track on the bit where a stretcher's been taken out the door and it's like a mile long and the stretcher just keeps going? It's like, at what point do you laugh at that joke? Because you laugh at it when you notice. But that you could put it at any point. So they were like, where do you put it? So they're like, we don't want a laughter track because it kind of ruins it. But then it bombed on telly because people used to watch telly by, like they would be doing other things. People just had telly on as a bit of company in the room or they're cooking or whatever. So people wouldn't necessarily be watching, so they wouldn't know.
The lack of signal. Actually, there's something funny going on the telly, so I'll look at that. Yeah,
exactly.
That makes a lot of sense.
Just noise. It was nothing, and so it didn't work on telly, and it obviously on video and stuff afterwards. It had a new life.
Well, it became Naked Gun, didn't it? It's a precursor to Naked Gun.
And they got. That's why there's such a big gap between Police Squad and Naked Gun, because it was only really like as it got on VHS, that they then got the opportunity to do the film. But my theory as to why it bothered you when it was gone is because I do think that telly and film, to extent when you have a series of films, and if you have a TV series, it's no different to like a meal, right? So your favorite dinner. Right, it's got all different ingredients in it, and it's all of that combination of ingredients that make that dinner taste exactly the way you like it. Now, one day, somebody else makes that, and they put a different ingredient in, just one thing, but it changes something about the taste of it. Yeah, that could still be a nice taste. Yeah, but because you've got used to it the other way, you go, "What's
wrong? There's something wrong." Yeah,
wrong. And but it's not a bad taste. It's just different. Yeah, and it's because you get used to something the way that you like it. Yeah. And that's why I think it's really important when you establish a TV show and it works, that you don't change the ingredients of it. Yeah. And that's like all of the tone, the stylistic choices of the way it's shot, the look of the world, the style of comedy. You need to maintain that, because what really a TV show is somebody's favorite dinner. And they like, or a type of food they like. And that's why sometimes I can be in the mood for Friends. I can go, oh, I fancy Friends tonight. Or I can come in late and I go, I fancy South Park. I want something a bit
stupid,
like more outrageous. And that's the difference between, on a normal weeknight, you might want a bit more of a healthier dinner or something normal. But after a night out, you need a kebab. So you need something awful. And this is the thing, I need South Park. I need something because it's late Andy Bottom. Yeah, so it's late at night, and so it's just the same thing. And so you want that experience to be the experience that you're expecting.
Yeah.
So when they changed that and took the laugh track off, they pulled out a key ingredient. Even though you don't technically like laughter track, but you got used to that. That was part of the dinner. That's
the
part
experience. That's very true. That's very interesting. I think you've hit. What do you think, Steve? I think that is.
No, I think that's very true. I mean, I thought that, but it's just I don't know. It is like you get so used to it, and then it was so noticeable when it went away. I was like, why did you do that? I mean, they did have a period where obviously they had a change of one of the direct writers as well and directed, and you could tell like massively.
Yeah.
It was only recently they've actually got back together for like series 10, 11 and 12, and it's gone back to being as funny as it was in the first 6 series. But there was a period where, like you say, maybe it was the director change or the writer change, but it was. I think it was more than one ingredient that was removed. But here's a question that, because we're hoping to get, I'm speaking to a stand-up comedian, I'm hoping to get on the show. But with stand-up comedy, you get to test your material in live crowds, so you know whether stuff's funny, you know whether it's going to bomb when you go out and do your tour.
Different things work in different towns as well.
Yeah. How do you know when you're going out on TV? Yeah, because exactly. You can do regional jokes and you can feed off the crowd. If the crowd respond well to a really bad, really sort of like on the edge naughty joke, you can go a bit further. How do you gauge that with TV? Because it's got to be a lot more difficult, I would imagine, to know. And then it's a lot of work then to actually put it all together for it to then not be good. Do you know what I mean? So how do you know?
Well, you never really truly do.
That's the short answer.
It's sort of, obviously there's lots of people your script go through, layers of producers, executive producers, commissioners that will feed back on it, and depending on the sort of thing you're making. So for speaking for Andy and I, because we make quite authored shows, which is sort of a bit more unusual in TV comedy. You don't have that so much, and we were a bit of a square peg in a round hole when we were doing Top Cop, our first big series, because it's an unusual setup. It's kind of almost a bit more American in a way. But what's typical of film, film writer directors in film is like, oh yeah, that's the thing, but it's not so much in TV comedy. So it was a slightly different process, and for us, it's about literally the really organic thing of, did it really make us laugh when you wrote it?
Yeah,
and so it certainly helps you write with somebody else, like people that write alone, so like John Sullivan, Only Fools and Horses. I've so much respect for him.
Oh man, one of the grandmasters. He wrote alone, didn't he?
Grandmaster wrote alone, and wrote one of the funniest sitcoms of all time. So it's like, who are you testing your material?
Like the Simpsons, they've got hundreds of writers.
Incredible, absolute genius. So I find writing with Andy, it's really useful because generally most of the best moments, or the funniest things we've written, I found have come from us like exchanging ideas, building on what each other are saying, until suddenly there's a moment where we just both crack up at just picturing it and going, that's such a funny image, or that's such a funny thing to say to that. That's what I say. Yeah. And then what we have to do is really remember how much that made us laugh the first time we heard it.
The reason why I'm laughing is I'm remembering something from our formative years that I have to bring up. I can't not, but go on.
Oh God, I'm worried now. But yeah, and just you have to remember how funny you found it in that moment.
Yeah.
Because you're going to hear it 1,000 times again. Yeah. And it's not going to be as funny.
No, of course, exactly.
But you got to know. But it's all about how funny it is the first time, because that's what people will see. They'll be there.
You put it in.
I suppose the casting as well, though, of who's performing, what your ideas as well has got to be super.
Yeah, their reactions to it, maybe.
Yeah, and the cast just raise it all to a whole new level when you get a cast with a script, behind your script, and so much of our stuff, so much improv that's made it in. Moments like little rephrasing that they might find that they end up doing naturally, or the tweak on the day and go, would the character say like this, or would it be more like that? And you go, oh yeah, that's better. That's more a sort of word they'd use.
Yeah.
There's a bit in Top Coppers. So Mahogany and Rust, two sort of main cop characters, are talking to their boss Chief, and Chief is trying to convince them of something, and he says, take it from the lover of another brother's mother.
That's it.
Yeah, take it from the lover of another brother's mother. And then And the idea of that, we're supposed to say that line, and they look a bit confused, and there was, a couple more lines to finish the scene. But then John Kearns, who played Russ, like he's obviously, he keeps in the scene, he's trying to work it out.
He's got that look, hasn't he?
Yeah, and then he said to me, should I not say at the end, like, are you sleeping with your mate's wife? And I was like, yes. I was like, yes, say that. That's absolutely brilliant. And so for the rest of the scene after Tuesday is taken from the lover of another brother's mother, you see him going, like, thinking about it, and then he just drops it at the end, and we've got Chief to shout, get out, to seal it. And it was a great line to the scene, and we realised actually that's so much better. And that's a great combination of something that was planned.
That's collaboration, isn't it?
Yeah, and then this brilliant comedian / actor you've got playing the character who just gets it. And I love it when those sorts of things, come together.
Well, I think we're kind of coming towards the end of our time. Did you cut us off after just over an hour? But however,
I think we've gone past that now. No, I think we've actually gone over I think we've gone over the threshold now of followers. Okay. So I think we're good.
It's still different.
That's over the threshold.
It's some weird thing that Facebook put in, like you have to have so many followers to be able to do streams of certain limbs and stupid things. Like,
have we got too many then? Have we? Or?
I think it was mostly to do with music. A lot of people doing live streaming music for 2 hours, doing covers of illegal covers of songs. I think that's part of the reason.
What I want to ask you is about it's about the past, unfortunately, but it's not going to be, and there's nothing sinister. Don't worry.
Sure.
It's not them crotchless pants.
No, I just remember growing up. Well, obviously, we know these systems were teenagers. I know your family. I know your older brother as well, and he's very funny, but I don't think he wouldn't be able to put. He's a storyteller, isn't he?
Yes, he is. Yeah.
And I remember just crying, just tears coming down my face, telling stories of when you guys were small. And he was quite mean to you when you guys were young, but that was where the comedy came from.
It was. Yeah.
But it really was. I'm not telling a lie there. However, would you find, because it is a question, so I think we found similar things funny. I remember the first time I brought over, I discovered Eddie Izzard, and I brought the DVD straight over to yours, and that was it. I didn't know how much you knew about him, but I didn't know much at that time. So I thought we kind of very much discovered.
I think you introduced me to Eddie Izzard.
So how much of your past experiences, kind of funny family situations, I did notice, I think, 1 or 2 moments in Top Coppers that had your personality on it, because there were like little phrasings that were said in the past when we were kind of knocking around together, and I was like, there's a bit where my wife looks at me and went, did you guys used to say things like that? That's keen, that part is, definitely.
Yeah.
That was really cool. But so how much has your kind of life experiences informed your work? And I've got to tell this story after you've answered.
I mean, loads. There's loads of little nods in Top Coppers like that, and phrasings, because you've got, like, comedy's best coming from like an honest place.
Real,
and so if you're writing what's funny to you, but also your own experiences, there'll always be someone that relates to that. So even though Top Coppers is such a mad, otherworldly type show, we still wanted it to be relatable in this really British way. So even though there's very few British elements identifiable in it, it's still meant to be an incredibly British show, because you can feel it in the tone and the humour and the way they speak to each other. And there's loads of nods in there. I put a quote in that was my grandpa's thing, which I wanted to get in there, which was when Zach, the small boy that works in the police station.
He just inexplicably works there.
Inexplicably, never explained. He's going to get into a fight with Mahogany, and he says, "Do you want death or sudden death?" Which was we thought was a funny line because it's coming from a child, so it's ludicrous. But my grandpa used to say that to us as kids, and left hand was always
Is that from the Irish side, is it?
No, that was the back country side. That is,
that sounds about right.
That sounds about right.
So there's loads of little nods. You've got to write what you know, and actually, if anything, we've been guilty of not doing that enough. because I think when you're younger, you don't realize that enough, and I think as you get older, you start to realize I just need to write stuff that's happened to me, stuff I know, because that stuff is funny. There's nothing funnier than real life.
See,
it really isn't. And now there's something we're developing at the moment, which we haven't got a way like with a broadcast or anything yet, because we want it to get the right commission, if you know what I mean, for it. And it's something which is it's basically a story of our families, mine and Andy's families.
Yeah.
Just obviously, with different character names, but pretty much every member of our family is in some way accounted for in the character.
In it.
Yeah, I mean, our families don't even know yet. I'm not bothered. But it's like I realised actually I've got quite an unusual family. It's a family of like entrepreneurs. My older brother, so Ryan, who you mentioned, is he's like the Del boy of the West Midlands, and it's always like got these different like mad business ideas and trying his hand at this and that, and it makes a great success at some. But he is the most determined, hard-working bloke I know. He's relentless. And then my younger brother works with my parents, and they run a market company, and they run retail markets and stuff. And so that's sort of odd dynamic where they're all partners as well in the business. My mum, my dad, and my younger brother. So my young brother's now on the same level as my parents, and they've ran it since before he was born. So really weird for them now. They've got like their son is on the same level. And so I just realised that I could write. There's something funny in this, like a family are all trying their hand at different things, they're all pulling apart in different directions. And so I think that's just important to do. And I think anyone looking to do this kind of thing, just do write what you know.
We have a similar situation in our family, mostly with my mother. Now, hopefully she's not listening. But again, I think would other people find it funny? Again, that's the thing I come back to, because we've had this running joke now for possibly about 25 years that she should be wearing a hearing aid, like genuinely, there's a problem and she will not have any of it. Like little stupid things like she'll walk, and just things she says, like, and I know Greg Davis does this a lot. He's probably the best at it, like talking about his mom on stage. But like my mom, like we've got kids, and we used to run a kids football team, and the kids still joke about the stuff she come out with now. Like one of the kids one game comes running over as loud as you like, stood about 10 feet away, not far, just literally shouted, "Joel, throw me the Jaffa cakes." And my mom responds with, "Hedgehog. What do you want a hedgehog for?" And you're like,
"That's bad live, Reedy."
And you're like, what? But if that was just one incident, it probably wouldn't be that funny. But then, like, the same day, I specifically remember my Auntie Beverly popping round and saying, "I've got to get off because I've got all the freezer stuff in the boot of the car." And my mum, she's, "Oh, well, you should have said Martin's got loads of nails in the shed."
I love this kind of thing. And in fact, my girlfriend lives for those kind of stories, because she does that sort of thing all the time.
How? I just...
Okay.
Crazy.
There's a couple... Okay, I did mention this off air. I really want to break this one. I'm going to break the pact for this one.
Oh, no, you're not.
Okay, I won't then. I'm going to go on there. Do you remember?
Hang on a minute. This is an exclusive.
Do you remember? My cousin Julian. We'd gone out. I think it was Waterfront or something like that, or we just went for a few drinks. And for some reason, we weren't little kids. Do you mean we were of drinking age? So we were like 18, 19, whatever it might be. There's. You have the Merry Hill Centre in Dudley, so it's a big shopping mall. There's a cinema. There's all sorts of things going on, but it's all in a kind of chasm. So it's in a boat. It's in a kind of basin kind of thing. So all things are going on at the bottom, and then you have all the bars at the top, and there's this massive grass verge. It's almost vertical grass verge
from the KFC down to the UCR.
Yeah. So we were dressed quite smartly, because when you're younger, you dress smart to go out, don't you? As was the style at the time.
Yeah, and you bent German shirts, and you kicked it.
Yeah. For some reason, we felt a little bit, wants to kind of relive our kind of kid days. And I think it was your idea, Key, to have a race down this vertical grass hill. So, and then me and my cousin, we just went, yeah, that's a good idea. Let's just start sprinting down this hill.
Never been a better idea.
Was it like that cheese chasing thing they do?
Yeah, it was like that, yeah.
So anyway, it was dark as well at the time. This is quite important to the story. So we started lamping it down this hill all the way to the bottom. And we're competitive guys, you know what I mean? We all wanted to win. We were really, really giving it some. What we didn't realise is at the bottom of this hill, and the hill doesn't even go out into a flat. There's just a gate. And it's separated by wooden bollards. And every metre or so, there's wire. There's wire mesh.
Thin wire.
One
not be seen in the dark.
One that hits you around there, and one that hits you in the knee area. Yeah,
well, it basically hit you perfectly balanced. So you don't hit it and then flip. It hits it and it hits you there and there. So it perfectly sends you forward and then sends you back.
We went into this full pelt, all three of us, and we all just went boom.
Perfectly went like this, went straight back.
And each other go, what's happening while we go backwards? The pain was incredible. The pain was incredible. I had a proper whip across my chest. But
oh God, we laughed so hard.
I couldn't get up.
Just three of us lying on the bank next to each other like that. Just laughing and in pain.
But the thing is, one of us hit it first. So the last thing the person behind would have seen is the person going, why are you going behind me?
Just going.
And then you're gone as well. You don't have time.
So why are they going back?
There's one thing, hitting something and knowing you can hit it. There's another thing, running confidently into wire mesh. Going downhill. Anyway.
Yeah.
So that was funny.
I love stories like that though.
That was really painful, but very, very funny.
Because they are funny to share, but in the moment there's never anything funnier. Like we had a downhill incident with my bro Mike, and it was the similar. I was running and he was going down on a bike. So I was running, ended up rolling, and I'm running. Mike's bombing down the hill on his bike, and all of a sudden his bike disappears. But he's still in. I was only about 12, but he was still in a cycling position as he was flying through the air, and just kind of. And it just got. But his bike was gone. We couldn't find it. It had just fallen down a big hole. But somehow the bike had managed to fall down a big hole, and he continued his trajectory perfectly.
Forward. Yeah,
and it's just like it's still like this. But like moments like that are just I don't know whether if you tried to recreate that as a film, if they couldn't ever be as funny, could they?
No,
nothing's funnier than real life.
Yeah, there's too much moving parts. It's not simple enough. You have to be told it because it's not visually. I'm sure if someone was watching that, it would be quite funny. Three idiots running into the white mesh.
It reminds me of something they would have done on like what was the program with the teenagers? You know, the ones that were In-Betweeners.
In-Betweeners, yeah.
Something like that. It's something like they would have done. Yeah. But no, man, I love it. There's so many ideas. But this is one thing. I'm going to try and keep this one short because we have gone out quite long on this one. But you know when you have, how do you control your ideas? Because one of my biggest problems is I have so many ideas that I end up not getting the ones done that I should get done, because I'll have an idea, I'll start something, boom, that's the project, and then all of a sudden I'll be like, shit, no, I've got this other idea, and then I'll go, and then I'm trying to juggle like 12 ideas.
I know. I've been on the other side of your messenger. I'm like, okay, what is it this week? What?
my brain never turns off. I've got thousands of ideas constantly drumming around in my head and no way to put them out at the moment. Like, you know what I mean? So like, how do you control that? I mean, you get to work on some of your ideas, which is great, and put them out. But what about the ones that
Yeah, not all though. Clearly,
Yeah, not all of them clear because you just can't. How do you? I just find the whole picking process really difficult. Like which one of the ideas? Because to me, all my ideas are great, but obviously, but that's to me. So like picking.
I mean, that's a good place to be to have that sort of self belief in your ideas. I don't think I do think all my ideas are great.
Yeah.
That's my ideas and go, that's not a good idea.
Donovan has often heard me refer to myself as a genius, and he will vouch for that.
No, you did correct me once because you told me your idea, and I went, "That's a good idea," and he went, "No, it's a great idea." He corrected his own quality of idea, which was quite cool. You're wrong there by saying that's a good idea.
I think how do I control? Well, I don't know. Like I think again, it helps having a writing partner.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
And we're like Andy and I are best friends as well. Like we met at uni. Funnily enough, we weren't actually we were friends of friends at uni, and then we lots of people left. I stayed to do a master's, and so everybody else left, and he stayed to do some sort of teaching, like first years. So we sort of became friends by default, is how we always say it, because we literally had nobody else. We were only two people who knew each other, but it turned out we actually liked each other. Yeah, it did help a lot. And so, but because our friendship started by sort of working together, we became friends then when we were like making little shorts and stuff, little comedy shorts, whilst I was still at uni. It's like, you know how like Blade was like born just as his mom was transitioning to a vampire? It's like that for our relationship. So we ended up with all of the strengths of a friendship and all the strengths of a professional working partnership. And none of the weaknesses of either. So it's never been complicated in that we're friends and working partnership.
Yeah.
So I think having that relationship has helped because, you know, they always keep you in check. Like if you have an idea and you know, it is like it's unwieldy if you are on something and you go, oh, well, actually, let's do that. And then you go, oh, but we didn't finish that other thing. And then it's like you're trying to juggle too many things. Or you're trying to do all the housework all at the same time. And you're just leaving more of a mess, you know. And, you know, like when you're editing, as an example, you can't really work like that. And Andy, as the editor, you can't bear that. If you're like, you give a note and he starts working on that and you see something else, and you go, oh, wait, we wanted to change that as well. He'll go, hang on. We're doing this for... No, it is, and absolutely, like because you'll just lose track otherwise. So I think you kind of, especially when you start doing it kind of professionally, you just get into a rhythm where you have to, or you'll go mad in a way. I guess. But what I do is, so that you don't forget, is like I use like notes on my phone. I'll just
voice record.
Well, I did do that. So Andy and I have a WhatsApp group as well that's for writing ideas, and when I started that. I would do voice notes, and he was like, well, how are we ever going to search them? And like, that's a good point. So we started we just write writing ideas to each other, so that if you go, hang on, wasn't there a funny thing about a sheep? You can search sheep and you'll find it. So,
I use it
that's
for
a great way that you can have all those crazy ideas, but you still you don't lose them. They don't just go away because you work on something. You can capture them, make a note, and go back to it another time.
I definitely think that's a really big problem I have, because like I was just saying to, I don't know if I said it to Donovan or someone else yesterday, I had a bit of a lull during this lockdown where I've not really created much in the way of music, and then in the last probably 3 weeks I've created 60 new music tracks that all need lyrics, and I haven't sat down and finished one of them, but I've got 60 new songs sitting there ready to go. And it's like that's something I battle with like all the time. I have like a new melody idea come up, and instead of just recording the melody and then just leaving it to one side for a bit, it's like, no, I've got to work on it right now because it's just come in my head. Like, and I hate that. That's why I never sleep.
I think that's very similar with any person that's creative, Jimmy. And I've got books of notes, poems, short story ideas, and then they'll be all over my laptop. And like, this scene starts a book. I've got nothing else, but it's a really strong beginning to a book. I mean, it's not. It's happened 7 times that I've actually started a story and I've got to the end. Jimmy, I ended up getting published, which was great, but the process. I don't know about you, but with writing, I know it's a different discipline when you're writing fiction novels because it's a longer process. However, when you feel like you've completed something, do you ever feel that this is a question, I guess, for both of you really? Do you ever feel like, okay, how am I going to do that again? How am I going to hit that kind of zeitgeist again? I don't know if. Do you have that any doubt? Do you ever have any moments of doubt that you feel, okay, that was good, that was successful? I don't know at this point. If you were to ask me now, I don't know if you've got that in me again. Anything like
that? Well, don't know. I mean, like, go on.
So I was just going to say, I try. Like, if I look at the things I did with my previous band that you know of, and I look at all the big shows that we got to play and the support shows and all the bigger, and then I did that thing when I started filming. I worked with Judas Priest, and and I look at stuff like that, and I'm like, well, am I ever going to work with someone as big as Judas Priest ever again? So everything I do after that is going to be worse than that. And like the way I look at it now is like. And I did think that for a while, but now it's just I have to just think of everything as its own individual piece of work, like rather than comparing it to a previous piece. It just happened to be that was a bigger thing that worked out and paid a bit more money. But it doesn't mean that the other stuff that I'm doing is any worse. It just means that it's just not maybe as it's not caught as wide a net as the other stuff that I've done. So I don't really think about that. To be fair, I just try and treat everything individual.
On your so married to Mcgillicuddy?
Yeah. I think so. Like, I mean, certainly you have self-doubt. Self-doubt is like, it's just something you always deal with as a creator.
Yeah, it just happens.
You have to have it though as well.
Yeah, because it's also like a part of your driver as well, like what drives you to do it and to prove just that wrong. Perhaps so I do have that. I don't think I ever think was that like so Top Coppers was our biggest show, so I don't think I ever think like, oh, was that the one show I have in me, because I know that's not that's not the case. I know we've got loads of like shows, loads of concepts, pitch documents. I mean, we've probably got, I'm trying to think roughly, probably like 30 different projects, like as in different ideas that we've written up as pitch docs or one-pages and stuff like that. That I'm pretty confident at least 5 to 10% of them will be really good shows. If we got the opportunity. So
exactly. That's the key.
But it's a tough game, to get those commissions.
How do you think though now? Like one of the reasons why we thought of starting making the short films, like the stupid one I sent you earlier. One of the reasons why we thought we'd start doing that is because we just figured, well, YouTube now is a platform where there really doesn't allow for any excuses for creatives, because it's like we can put that thing out. And we've got no one got to commission it. We've got no one got to worry about what budget we spent on it, how long it took us to make it, or whatever. It's just make it, put it out, see what the response is. That's kind of like what I did with with music originally. Just started making stuff in my bedroom, putting stuff out. Then I got into a studio. But it was the fact that I was just willing to just stick it out somewhere and just see. But we did an episode ages ago, didn't we, on where we think that platforms like YouTube, Netflix and things like that have benefited the industry and made better content, or whether it's saturated it.
We had a discussion about whether it has or not, whether it's hurting.
Being good for the industry.
What I'd say is like to get into comedy, whether you, as a performer, or writer, director, or even producer, the best thing to do is just to do it. Like to go and do it. People will only sort of trust you to do it, and they see that you can do it. And now there's never been a better time, because you say with YouTube and with all of us with our own like camcorder equipment in our pockets, basically.
Well, these things are changing the world.
Like absolutely, like you could make something. You could just happen to be in the right moment and film something that you put on YouTube, and you make an absolute fortune.
Millionaire.
Viral, like So that's what's so strange, But to give you an example from our experience, we did that. So like I started out in the industry like about 2006 when I went and became a runner, and I was working my way at runner, researcher, assistant producer, that kind of thing. And I kept making little shorts at the same time. So my ambition was to be a director, but there's no real route to direct. It's not like if you work in finance or in law where you do a certain amount and eventually you're that role. It's different. I saw someone make a really good comparison recently, which is it's no different to like if you're a painter. It's not like you work as the person that just hands them the pots until eventually they let you paint something. It's like you paint something and someone goes, "You're a really good painter." So you're a painter
again and again.
Right? You keep painting and you get better at it. And then eventually people go, "You're a painter. You're really good."
Well, it's the repetition thing, isn't it? As well, like people are always asking, "How do you get the confidence to just keep getting up and doing all these different things?" And it's like it's repetition. You do something enough times to the point where you can't really do it wrong. It's that's the whole. Yeah,
you get better at it. Like you practice anything. Like even fitness. Like the more working out you do, the fitter your body gets. Like the more you make shorts and try things out, you better you get at it. And so like I was doing that, working in telly still, making little shorts, and I got to a point and I thought, okay, I need to do something that's more of a showpiece, something that I could say, okay, I am a director. And so that's when we planned the Top Coppers miniseries and made 6 like 5-minute episodes, which Donovan made a cameo in as well.
I can't remember.
You not remember? You were one of sort of the henchmen in a scene with like a guy who's smuggling hats. But it was like a big.
I still got him by the looks of it.
Still got one on.
No, it was just his henchman. This is my pay.
I think this was the outfit you were wearing at the time.
Yeah. It's a classic look. It's timeless.
But we made, so that was like all shot up in Stourbridge, around Stourbridge, and I convinced loads of people just to work on it, to like invest in the project with their time. And we sort of self-funded it and got everyone up to Midlands for a couple of weeks. All slept on the top floor of my brother's pub, which was all sort of disused. It was just a load of like empty, barren, bare rooms. I actually had this weird graffiti that said Leisure HQ, because apparently some lesbians had squatted up there for some time, and then there was loads of really graphic lesbian graffiti all over the wall.
They're actually field-based leisures, but that's where they come. That's when they hot desk.
Yeah, not the PC.
But then
the PC term.
No, I know. I'm referring to the graffiti.
To the graffiti, yes, exactly.
Yeah.
But that became known as Leisure HQ in the production. We didn't even call it production at HQ,
Yeah.
I mean, it was big graffiti. You couldn't ignore it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we won't get into that debate, the PC brigade and all of the rest of it, because that hinders every type of artistic medium anyway.
The thing is, if it wasn't there, it would be more difficult for people coming out that do want to do kind of shock comedy. If there's no one to shock comedy guys. So
it must be people like Frankie Boyle.
Yeah,
people like Frankie Boyle, like just going to what you was just saying then though. People like Frankie Boyle must be loving this generation because they're so easy to shock. It's ridiculous.
There is a line because he did get taken off the TV for a while, didn't he?
Yes,
he got cool off for a while.
Don't repeat that. We don't want this getting taken off.
Yeah, he did get sent to cool off for a while, but he's back.
Yeah, just calm down, Frank.
Yeah. So good advice anyway to end on that was, I think, if you're out there, we do keep saying this pretty much at the end of every show, don't we? If you've got
do it.
If we've got work, if you've got work that you're working on, paintings, pictures, music, singing, whatever it is, just get it out, put it on the corner. It's a safe place. That's what we're here. That's what the group was designed for people to take their art, put it on there, share it with the world. Some people are professionals, some people are complete amateurs starting out, but you've got to start somewhere. So, mate, thank you very, very much for joining us. We probably could have got on for hours, to be fair, but maybe we'll get you back again sometime in the future, man. But it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much,
mate. And don't forget, Yeah, don't forget, everybody, that the audio experience of this podcast will be up live tomorrow. It'll go up around midday, then onwards. So Spotify, Apple, wherever you get your podcasts, it will be there. So enjoy. Thank you very much.
Get to listen to my voice. How nice. Such a lovely voice to listen to for over an hour.
You're going to fall asleep to this tonight, aren't you, King?
Mate, 90 minutes of listening to yourself. Go fill your boots.
It's my dream.
Cool, guys. It's been emotional.
Mate, see you later, guys. Bye.